morning, everybody. Welcome to a Saturday morning with the Clear Mountain Monastery community. A slightly smaller group today. Probably some cohort of us have gone up to a retreat. Ajahn Nisabo and I both will teach 2 retreats up in Twisp, Washington, which is north central of the state. And Ajahn Nisabo's there already, and I'll be going there after this morning teaching. So maybe a few of the people that would usually be here are up there now, but we're so happy you came. It's a really great community. And a few announcements. So there's someone who's been supporting us from afar in the UK, a guy named Duncan R., and he's been taking all of our YouTube videos and converting them to MP3. So there are still people who just use MP3, especially forest monks and nuns who don't have access to YouTubes. They will have tiny little MP3 players, and he's been converting those for the last couple years, and we figured out a new way to automate that. But we've got a card on the back table to thank him for all of that, so anybody who's willing and interested, you can sign the card, and a good way to support people, because it really is, there's a lot of people who are helping to make Clear Mountain as wonderful as it is from near and far. So that would be great. We also have another card back there, which I think Samir, could you make that announcement? If
Sure. So Janaki, many of you may know, she's recovering, and I put a card over there, so please sign it.
yeah, Janaki, who's in recovery and will be in, won't be able to come for the next couple weeks, so we'll send her a card as well. Also, because there are so few of us, and we're gonna, I think, shut things down a little bit sooner today than usual, just because there's another big thing that's happening. All the most fun things in this room are from the celebration that's happening this afternoon, apart from us. So, we'll be kind of cleaning things up around 11:45. So are going to have a rain check for our volunteer meeting, which we usually do on the first Saturday of the month. And then also for next week, there's going to be some event that's going on at the church. So people can ask to park in the diocese parking lot, which is basically up the road this way, north, and then the first, I believe, parking lot, there'll be signs for the diocese, and you can park there or just anywhere in the neighborhood. So I think those might be our announcements. And with that, we can do a little bit of chanting. And what we do on these first Saturdays is invite people who are interested and who would like to request and to take the 5 precepts. So this is on page 130. 128. And Jeremy, would you want to request that? Okay.
So anybody who'd like, we can begin by bowing 3 times. Mayang Bante Tisaranena Saha Pancha Silani Yachama Dutiyampi Mayang Bante Tisaranena Saha Pancha Silani Yachama Tatiyampi Mayang Bante Tisaranena Saha Pancha Silani Yachama.
So that was a formal request, and we do lean into and still maintain a lot of these ceremonies which have been a part of Buddhism in Asia, Southeast Asia, for 2,500 years, and we do the Pali which is the Buddha's kind of one of the original languages that the Buddha spoke, and the English equivalent. And this is totally optional, and it's really important as we're doing these rituals, if you choose to take part, to figure out how it can be most meaningful for you to tap into the spirit of why, if you chose to bow, what are we bowing to when we bow, and just bowing to this ideal. What does the Buddha represent? He's the epitome of awakening, awakenness. That's the meaning of Buddha. And the Dhamma is the truth, the way things are. And Sangha, the third refuge, is the community of people who, for the last 2,500 years, have been putting these teachings into effect and realizing a degree of freedom from greed, anger, and delusion in their own hearts, something really noble that humans can do. So for those who want to, you can repeat after me. I'll recite this Namo praise 3 times in Pali, and then you can recite it 3 times as well. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. And just one for one. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tisarana kamanang nititang. Okay, and then I'll recite the Pali, and you can recite after me the Pali, and then I'll do the English, and you can do the English. Panatipata veramani sikapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from taking the life of any living creature. Adhinna dana veramani sikapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from taking that which has not been given. Kame sumichachara veramani sikapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from sexual misconduct. Musawada veramani sikapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from lying. Sura meraya majjapamadhatana veramani sikapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from consuming intoxicating drink and drugs which lead to carelessness. Imani panchasika padani silena sugading yanti silena boga sampada silena nibudding yanti tasma silang visodaye. Okay. Okay. So, a really beautiful ceremony, pretty much the exact words of which people have been chanting and committing themselves to for a long time, hundreds and hundreds of years, and it's can be really beautiful to just join in this lineage, this progression of people really aspiring to harmlessness and to friendliness in body, speech, and mind. So we can meditate together a little bit. And coming to meditate, we want to allow the body to enter into a posture which is supportive of and resonant of the type of mental posture that we're developing in meditation. That is a posture which is both upright but not uptight. So starting with the spine, and it doesn't matter if you're sitting on the ground or sitting in a chair, or even if you're standing. The posture actually, on one level, isn't so important, but the mind will be what we're paying most attention to. But supporting the mental posture, try to have an upright spine. You can imagine the vertebrae of the spine just stacked, one on top of another. And you can imagine an invisible string very gently pulling the body up from the top of the head, allowing the spine to elongate up, and then a very gentle weight pulling the coccyx down from the bottom of the spine. So elongating very gently, allowing the shoulders to come back a bit, just to expand the chest cavity. Allowing the skull to just balance on top of this upright central column. And with the one central column in this awake and alert posture, we can let everything else just relax and release around the central column. So all the musculature, all the flesh, skin down to bone, all of that can just relax. You can almost imagine it's like you've pressed the button at the top of a pressure cooker and just letting all the extra unnecessary strain and pressure that just builds up through the course of a life or a morning. You can just let all that go to the extent that you can. So upright, but not uptight. And with the body like this, we can allow the mind to take a similar posture. And people can stay focused on whatever meditation object you're most used to, if that's the breath, knowing every in and out breath from the beginning to the middle to the end of every in-breath, noting if there's a space, and then noting the beginning, the middle, and the end of every out-breath. Or if you have a mantra, you can stay with that. And you can combine those two if you'd like. Allowing the mantra, say if it's Buddho, which means awake, you can say Bud on the in-breath, Do on the out-breath. If it's Guan Yin, you can say Guan on the in-breath, Yin on the out-breath. Or whatever your mantra or simple word you're trying to keep in mind is. For those who might be curious, I'll just give a few words about embodiment. So, take a minute and see if you can figure out where, from a first-person felt sense, where is the brain? Where is the brain? You can feel it's somewhere behind the eyes, in front of the back of the skull, in between the ears. Okay, this is the brain. And unless we have a headache, which hopefully we don't, it's not actually that clear what this feels like from the inside for many people. A lot of people live from this space behind the eyes. And it can be good to experiment or see if you can allow the mind to be a bit more expansive. Just see if the mind can be bigger than just this quite constricted, several square inches of space behind the eyes and contained within the skull. So see if you can just unhook. And this isn't very technical language, but what would it mean if the mind could unhook from all this thinking and all this tendency towards entrapment in the head? We just unhook from that. Just release. Can be the first movement. And now see if the mind can drop, and see if you can first see if the mind can drop into the neck, and see if you can feel the neck from the inside of the neck. You might feel warmth. What does the neck feel like from the inside? this can be visual or imaginal, but it can also just be, this is what it feels like from the inside of the neck. We're dropping out of the head. And continue. See if you can drop down this local awareness and know from the top of the chest, and see if you can know from the heart. Come into this heart space in the middle of the chest, the middle of the chest. So we've unhooked and dropped awareness. And if we chose to, we could feel the heart beating. You can feel the lungs expanding with each in-breath. Just giving the heart a little bit of a breath hug. But we don't have to drill into any of these particular sensations or become fixated on any of the particulars of what the feeling is. Just knowing heart space from this heart space. So you've unhooked and dropped. And now see if you can open awareness. So from this heart sense, heart space, knowing from the heart space, how encompassing can the mind be within the body? Spreading out in every direction, globally, three-dimensionally. So you can feel the heart space and the neck and the belly and the arms and the legs and the head all at once. And if you can't feel all of that, just feel as much as you can feel. Opening and including, just including all these various parts of the body within the knowing. And then just let all that be and just watch and try to rest in this expansive, immersive body-mind. And the mind will shrink or start thinking about this or that, or tomorrow, or yesterday, or this morning, or this afternoon. It's no big surprise, just you can come back to this less complicated knowing. The body's still here. The mind is still here. minute or so of a meditation. Especially in a group setting like this, it can be really nice and useful to practice a bit of loving kindness meditation. And loving kindness meditation can really dovetail perfectly with this spacious, knowing sense of the body. So we're still here, knowing as much of the body as we can, three-dimensionally. And just see with one flip of the mind, one shift of the mind, if you can just drop any limits of the mind, any sense of boundedness or boundary, and extend this wish. May I be happy. May all beings be happy. May I be well, and may all beings be well. And allow any warmth and sincerity that we can bring to that to just emanate and radiate. May I be happy. May all beings be happy. May I be well. May all beings be well.
We will request a Dhamma talk, and we can do it all together. On page 124, we will chant in Pali, and we can begin with 3 vows. Brahma Chaloka Dipadi Sahampati Katanjaliyana Divarangaya Jata Sandhi Dasata Parajagajatika Dese tu Dhammang Anukampi Mang Bhajang.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Kaya gata no sati bhikkhave bhavita bhavisati bahuli kata yani kata vatu kata anutita parichita susamarada Ewan ni wo sikitabang. We will develop and cultivate mindfulness immersed in the body, make it our vehicle, make it our basis, establish it, exercise ourselves in it, and bring it to perfection. Thus you should train yourselves. Okay. So that quote there is a really beautiful one, and it's found in a very short discourse. Today we will be talking about the body. So if anybody would like to, this could be a good time if you wanted to stand up or change your posture at all. Please pay attention to your body. We'll actually be talking about Buddhist body image. And just saying those words, one might be apt to just go into the head, paradoxically or ironically, and just start thinking a lot. But just invite everybody, to the extent that we can, just to stay in the body and stay embodied through the whole of the morning, if you can, through the whole of the day and the week, and for the rest of your lives, if you can. Because it's just a nicer place to be. There's so many mental habits that we have, so many kind of gears that we just have churning all the time, that it can be good to be able to have this skill of tapping into something that's different, that's more tangible. So that quote that I gave is from a really short but also quite potent discourse of the Buddha, where he gives one of the most striking similes of the whole Pali canon, of the whole kind of Buddhist scriptural canon. And this is where the Buddha is teaching a group of monastics, and he says, suppose that there were a beauty queen, and the word he uses is Janapada Kalyani. Janapada Kalyani. Janapada means like country, and Kalyani means beauty. So we got the country beauty here. In Kalyana, this is the same word that we find more often in Kalyanamitta, or spiritual friendship, beautiful friendship, friendship with the wise. And it means both physical beauty and also this more spiritual beauty, which is the context the Buddha uses it in more frequently. But here he uses it in the very mundane sense. The country beauty, suppose the country beauty comes, and everyone hears, the people of the town hear, the country beauty is coming. They say, Janapada Kalyani, Janapada Kalyani. And they all throng, and they get together, and they hear that this beauty queen is coming to perform somewhere. And they hear that the beauty queen can sing, and some hear that the beauty queen can dance. And they get even more excited. They say, the Janapada Kalyani can sing, and the Janapada Kalyani can dance. And so even more people come, and they're thronging, and the beauty queen is up on this stage. And so that's the scene. The Buddha has set this scene. And he says, suppose that then, so we've got this beauty queen, and you've got this mass of people thronging to see the beauty queen. And then suppose there was a person who comes, who loves life and does not want to die, who loves pleasure and who abhors, dislikes pain. And someone were to say to this person, okay, person, I would like you to walk in between the beauty queen and the crowd of people, and following you there will be an assassin with raised sword, and we're going to put a big vat, a brass vat filled to the brim with oil on your head. And what we'd like you to do is to walk in between the beauty queen and the throng of people, and you're going to have this vat of oil on your head, and as soon as you drop a drop of oil out of that big old vat on your head, then the assassin is going to chop your head off. What do you think? What do you think about this, practitioners? Would that person lose mindfulness? I'll ask you guys, would that person lose mindfulness? Hopefully not. That's a good answer. Hopefully not, because the consequences would be not so good. And so too, the Buddha says, this is a simile. You all can train yourselves to keep mindfulness immersed in the body. You should develop and cultivate mindfulness immersed in the body like this. We will develop mindfulness immersed in the body. We will develop it, make it our vehicle, make it our basis, establish ourselves in it, train in it, and perfect ourselves in it. Thus you should train yourselves. Boom. End of sutta, end of discourse. And very, very potent, and yeah, so rich, so rich. Part of our monastic training for bhikkhus and bhikkhunis is we got lots of rules. We got lots of rules. We got rules on top of rules. And 75 of them or so are about just kind of mundane ways of etiquette, ways that a monastic should just be in the world. And 2 of them are just about the way that we walk. So we're supposed to go about, whether walking or sitting, well restrained. So like with this kind of good posture. And this sutta is evocative of that, kind of having a sense of bearing, a sense of dignity in the way that you move about in the world, kind of balancing this sense of immersion in the body. And I really love this sutta because it does a great job of comparing kind of a worldly sense of body image, what the beauty queen has for themselves, and the relationship that all of the throng, the horde, everybody, what they think about the beauty queen as well. And there is this body image. You can't really get around it. We do have a sense of what we look like, how we appear in the world, and unfortunately there's just comparison that comes along with it. We're more attractive than so-and-so, or we're less attractive than so-and-so, or we're equally attractive as so-and-so. And in Western discourse, you've got terms like a positive body image or a negative body image based on this superficial, just skin deep, whatever is just on the surface of things, almost definitionally superficial. It's just all about what's on the externals of things, how we look and how we appear to others, and what their sense and our own sense of beauty means. And the Buddha, fortunately, wasn't just locked into one particular body discourse, but talked about the body, encouraged this mindfulness immersed in the body. So not just superficial, not just surface level, but really a felt inner three-dimensional global sense of the body. And he talked about it in many ways. Last week I had the really great pleasure to join Aya Anandabodhi, who is a bhikkhuni who lives now out in Port Townsend, and she and I taught a retreat in Camp Samish, so it's near Bellingham, and we taught it all about embodiment, and it was just really great just to be up with her, kind of presenting these things. She's been practicing mindfulness immersed in the body, this felt sense of mind filling the body for decades and decades, and you can feel it when you're around her. She's a very grounded person, and the themes of the body, although it was embodiment, it was 4 days, the 4.5 days. The first half day, we gave the precepts like we did just this morning, and gave some reflections about the precept body, which is probably a term unfamiliar to many. The next day, the full first day of the retreat, was about heart body. So bringing the Brahma Viharas, this loving sense of presence, into our awareness with the body. So the heart body. The next day was on the whole body, how we can inhabit from the soles of the feet up, down from the crown of the head, everything, this whole body. And if any of you were trying to follow along with that guided meditation, you shouldn't feel at all ashamed or weird or like you're an anomaly if you found any blind spots or blank spots in the body, trying to fill the body with awareness. It's totally common to just come to your elbow or your thigh or just some part, or even from say the chest down, where it feels like a blank spot. You can't feel anything. And it's strange to feel that, because you would think, oh, I mean, I can see it. I can see it with my eyes. It's there. I got something dangling beneath my neck, but I just can't feel it. Very common, and it's something that you can definitely train in. And we can learn to feel more of the body. So that was the second day of the retreat, this whole body. Third day was on the elemental body. So the Buddha does talk about just being able to see the body in terms of physical elements. He mentions 4: the sense of solidity, or the earth element, the sense of movement or liquidity, the water element, the sense of heat or lack of heat, the fire element, and the sense of another type of movement, the air element. So just this very first-person felt sense, not that the Buddha was trying to proclaim his own type of physics, where every quark or molecule has a little bit of earth and fire and wind and whatever in it, but more just how the body feels from the inside. I can feel some earth. You got some muscles, and you got some bones, and you start clacking the teeth, and okay, that's earth. That's just earth, and it's a really useful way to get out of our own stories about the body. If we can just shift into this other view of the body, and if this seems too foreign, this idea of just the 4 elements, we're all just all these other periodic elements. You got just the calcium of the teeth, and all the nitrogen and oxygen and all the other, probably got some magnesium up in here and all the other stuff. It's just easier to feel hardness than it is magnesium, from a first-person point of view, at least for me. So elemental body. And then the last day was about a space body, and not talking so much about astral projection or any kind of out-of-body experience, but feeling a sense of spaciousness within the body, not trying to disembody ourselves or any kind of disintegration, but feeling a sense of spaciousness and flexibility with our mental relationship with the body. The Buddha talked about 4 powers of an arahant. 4 powers of an arahant. An arahant is an enlightened person in a Buddhist context. So an arahant is someone who is defined as having transcended dukkha. So although they still can feel physical dukkha, is someone where if you go up to an arahant and pinch them on the shoulder, they would feel it. There's a physical, it's not like they don't feel the human body, but they don't suffer with it. Even if you were to pinch real hard, they wouldn't suffer. There would be no mental dukkha, no mental suffering to go along with any kind of physical suffering, which is just inherent in being a human. They have transcended greed, anger, and delusion, which is an exciting prospect. If you can get your mind around believing that, is it possible? Is it possible for a human to transcend greed and anger? Maybe. But one thing they've also been able to attain is a degree of mental flexibility, cognitive fluidity, just a way of not being stuck in one kind of body narrative that's totally positive. Every inch of my body is always beautiful all the time. One could try to force themselves to believe that, but it just seems like a losing perception. I mean, it's not going to take too long. It doesn't take too much looking, especially if you've got a mirror and you can look at like the backsides and stuff. I mean, it's not too hard. And no diss, everybody. I mean, I certainly include myself in this. I mean, it's good to be able to admit that we got some ugly parts. We got some ugly parts up on us. And especially if you like go a little bit deeper, if you open things up and the fluids and the semi-fluids and it's somewhat of a relief to have these other discourses that, there are, body positive movements, and there's a lot of good in that. We definitely don't want to have a wholly body negative image that we're stuck in, that every inch of this is ugly all the time, always. But to try to force ourselves, to shoehorn ourselves into this always sexy all the time image, it's great that we don't have to do that, and that the Buddha kind of said that we can have a more realistic view. Like, not having to do that is, there's freedom in that, because it's just true that we're not all sexy all the time. So what this arahant can do, they have 4 powers. So they have the ability to see that which is unattractive as attractive. They have the ability to see that which is attractive as unattractive. They have the ability to see that which is both attractive and unattractive as attractive or unattractive. And they can see that which is neither attractive nor unattractive, just kind of as attractive or unattractive. So basically, to boil all that down, they're not stuck in one particular view of the body. They have a useful, a body image or a conception of the body. Their minds can relate to their own bodies and the bodies of others, and not just bodies, but anything. They can see what's attractive and unattractive about things. And that's great, to be able to not be stuck in one particular perception about the world. And this really helps with our morals, with that precept body. So that 3rd precept, I undertake the precept to refrain from sexual misconduct. When you take that on and start trying to figure out what that means in the different roles that you serve, or the relationships that you have, you start seeing a usefulness in this. So for celibate monastics, bhikkhus or bhikkhunis, we're celibate. We don't do sex of any kind, like ever, as long as we're in robes. And it's very useful to be able to shift, like, oh yeah, there is something attractive, but there's also something that's unattractive. And if we're married, if we're in a committed relationship, to be able to see someone else that's beautiful and not be a slave to, or only able to see the beauty in that other person that isn't our partner. Because if we're trying to keep some level of commitment and honesty with the person, then, oh, actually, yeah, that other person is attractive, but I'm in a committed relationship, and is it possible for me to not focus in on the attractive bits, but to, take in other aspects of the humans or the people that we're attractive to. This level of cognitive flexibility is just useful to be able to have, and an arahant has taken this cognitive adaptability just to its utter end. Just in a moment, they can say, "Oh yeah, that's pretty, and it's unpretty. It's attractive and it's unattractive," and each of these has their use. So if sensual desire or sexual desire is coming up in a way which is inappropriate, we can focus on the unattractive bits. But if aversion, irritation, annoyance, anger, what anger does is automatically focus in on and fixate on the unattractive bits. That person is just wholly unattractive. All the aspects of their character are just ugly. They're just a mentally ugly person. And an arahant can just, in the snap of less than the time it takes to snap, can just say, "Oh yeah, but also, they were probably a child once, and there are probably reasons why they're morally repugnant and unattractive for all these reasons. And there's some attractiveness. They're whatever. Hopefully each of us can, as we get better at this, be quicker and quicker at being able to see the noble things in things which are, we can say good things about the people who are, we're not automatically attracted to. So those 4 powers, and we don't have to wait. It's not like we wait till we're an arhat, till we're fully enlightened to develop all those. We can start developing those now as we pay attention to different aspects of a body image. The word the Buddha uses in that phrase that here's how you should train yourselves. We will develop and cultivate mindfulness immersed in the body, kaya gata sati. We will develop and cultivate mindfulness immersed in the body, make it our vehicle, make it our basis, establish it, exercise ourselves in it, and bring it to perfection. Thus should you train yourselves. When he says that this mindfulness immersed in the body, it's so much not just a superficial thing. It's not just a two-dimensional thing. Pali compounds, you read them backwards. So for the most part, kaya gata sati. Sati is mindfulness. It's our capacity for paying attention. It's the capacity of awareness. It's the capacity of knowing and the ability to move that in different directions. So sati, which is gata, which has gone to mindfulness, which has gone to kaya, the body. Mindfulness gone to the body. Mindfulness immersed in the body. And the cool thing about poly compounds is that you have a lot of wiggle room to figure out how you want to translate them and understand them and embody them. So the relationship between the different words is not set in stone. So it could be mindfulness immersed in the body, mindfulness immersed, gone to, along with the body, into the body, through the body, mindfulness immersed throughout the body. And I hope everybody had some kind of success or unlatching or unhooking from the sense of the mind just being constricted and narrowly stuck behind the eyes, and was able to do this kind of dropping into the body. Because you can feel the body from the inside, and that's really useful. That's what this mindfulness immersed, filling the body is pointing to. It's not just an image of the body. It's a felt first-person sense of the body, how we sense that, and how we relate to other sentient beings that are similarly sensing from within their own bodies. So that first term that we talked about are taking the precepts, these 5 precepts or however many ethical principles you have, and the 5 precepts of undertaking the training to refrain from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, from lying, and from intoxicants. This is the basis of Theravada Buddhist or a Buddhist morality, but really whatever your ethical principles are. And most ethical systems really do have a lot of consilience and overlap with those Buddhist principles. But this idea of the precept body is a concept which you find in Chinese Buddhism or Northern Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism. And the idea is that when you take precepts like this, there's almost this psychic aura or this almost metaphysical body or like armor that you're endowed with, that you become endowed with. Is this armor or this force field that you're able to take upon yourselves, that it's a force field, an armor. There's a Thai word which is like a diamond armor, which as long as you keep your precepts, we're undertaking not to kill. As long as we don't kill, then this armor is kept intact. And then if we relate to our precepts in a way, say we break them in some kind of way, we smack a mosquito in a way that we weren't, we wanted to not kill, even insects, if that's part of your precept, and you just out of habit, because it hurts a little bit, and you smack it, then if that was part of your precept, then that armor gets a little bit of a chink in it, a little bit of a break in the armor. And yeah, it's kind of a useful image, and I can't speak to that. I do have one teacher in Thailand, Lumpur Biek, who will say that, I mean, he is an unusual and somewhat fantastic human. Unusual, I haven't met many other humans, or maybe any other human like him, but he will say that he can actually see different people's precepts bodies, or these kind of this diamond armor, and yeah, he'll say that it's a real psychic phenomenon, or some kind of aura that can provide a protection. But whether or not you believe in that, or you can see it, or you can feel it, I think all of us can sense it. Like when we do feel like our precepts, or our principles, or our integrity are somewhat smudged. It's like we've got this white cloth of the precepts, and there's a little bit of a stain, or there's a little bit of a mark on it, and you can kind of feel it. It feels a little bit dirty, because we've started to get used to this level of cleanliness, because we're not hurting anybody, and we're intending not to hurt anybody. So you start getting this inner sense of strength from the precept body. So I wish I had more time to go into these other types of embodiment of mind immersed in the body, of the heart body, what it would mean to embody a sense of loving kindness and friendliness towards ourselves and towards other people. The whole body, what it means to really feel into and feel from the whole body, from the toes up to the crown of the head. What it means, this elemental body, being able to shift our conception from this is mine, I am this is myself, which is a really painful feeling, or painful perception to have about the body, because it's going to change. We're already getting older. You all have gotten 32 minutes older than when we started this talk, and it's just going to keep on going. So being able to shift, it's just earth element doing its thing, and water element, air element, fire element, and it's just a much less personal and a much less it's a safer perception to be able to tap into than always just having to be me and mine. And it's just spacious body, a spaciousness of mind in its relationship to the body. So in the talk there, and we'll love to hear people's questions and thoughts around embodiment.
Handamayan Dhamma Kataya Sadhu Karang Dhammanase. Sadhu, 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 anumadani.
Okay, so we can open things up to questions. If anybody has a question here, got Dave as a mic runner. You can just raise your hand and we can go to you. And people on Zoom, if you've got a question, you can raise your hand. That little cartoon hand works best because you bump to the front of the line. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for this talk. Oh, is it? Okay.
Oh,
this feels weird to confess, but the way that I grew up, I was taught, and it was like a value system of my entire life, that like my entire value is my brain. And, you know, a few years ago, that would have been a humble brag, but I've come to realize that that's really taking away from me, you know, the ability to feel in my body, but it's really deeply conditioned to not, like, I can't even tell when I'm getting sick, unless I'm like really sick and it's like way too late. And so it was really deeply interesting to me to hear your talk, because I've been trying to kind of go in that direction, but it also feels like a foreign country. And so I'm wondering, for someone like me, you know, where do you get started when there's like this like deep conditioning, you know, like body scan is like the place where they usually start us, but to me it doesn't resonate. And like you spoke about many things, but where would you start to kind of like go through this kind of barrier in terms of practice?
That's a great question. and I think a lot of people can sympathize with that, just feeling totally up in the head, because yeah, so many modern cultures just give so much emphasis to intelligence and the brain, and just give so much weight to that. And I think when we close, we'll do a chant which is all about spreading specifically loving kindness, but it also works for one sense of embodiment, where we abide pervading different directions, in front, behind, to the left, right, above, below, around, and everywhere, with this sense of loving kindness. But you can also, as you do that, experiment with using this local awareness, this sense of mind actually dropping out of the head. And it really is the case that it can feel like another country, but the borders are just almost, they become more and more porous, and you can become more and more, you can know the body from more and more parts of it, and then you can know the whole body all in one go. And it's just a matter of training and just going slowly, and yeah, filling up the body with your mind is to the extent that you can, and just pushing forward, pushing into those boundaries, and allowing the mind to expand to the extent that you can and that you will. And yeah, I did mention there are all these different discourses on the body, and ways that the Buddha talked about the body. And there's one somewhat famous discourse where the Buddha talks about the 32 parts of the body, where you think about hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, skin, and then some 27, 28 others. And a lot of people can feel quite averse to that, because it can be talked about in a way which is almost like pointing the super grossness of all of those, and the nastiness of it. And people can think that Buddhism is just against the body, and Buddhism isn't against the body. It's just pointing out another way of looking at the body to balance things out. And the brain is, when it's working, and even when it's starting to not work, it is a pretty amazing organ, but it's not totally reliable. As we age, the synapses aren't firing the way they used to, and it's good to be able to spread one's sense of well-being and sense of like a wholesome sense of self, even outside of a narrow brain centeredness, centered self. So hope that helps. What was your name again? Malika. Oh, okay. Sadhu. Yes, Gary.
Gary?
Thank you. As you were speaking in response to that question, I suddenly had an image that comes out of something one of our friends here has been talking about for a few weeks, that notion of when things are a little difficult, and I'm hearing a difficulty getting into the body in this case. When things are a little difficult, you're between a rock and a hard place, flow like water. And the image that I got suddenly as you were responding to her is of my brain just flowing like water all the way down to my toe. That's all. I just wanted to share that.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you, Gary. Yeah, one exercise that Ayananda Bodhi guided us through was embodying, moving the mind into the body, starting with the right toe, and then moving up through the leg. And then as we go, not letting go of our awareness of the toes of the feet, but continuing, it's like filling up the body with awareness. So as we're aware of the toes, we're aware of the feet, the calves, the thigh, coming up like this, going into the hand. So skipping the torso and the head, going into the hand, up the right arm, coming around, down, continuing to fill up the left upper arm, the left lower arm, the hand, down into the left upper leg, left lower leg, and left foot and left toe. And then you just got this kind of horseshoe of awareness, and it's a rather fascinating exercise to embody oneself. Thank you, Gary. Judith, please.
Could you speak a little bit, please, about the body as process? So like as verb rather than as noun?
Yeah, it's this idea of that Buddhism is basically all about verbs. Yeah, there's no nouns in Buddhism. That's the implications of this idea of not self, not only, and it's an interesting thing just to look at, where are all the nouns? Where is the self inside of here? Where is the self inside the body? Where is the body inside of the body? Where is the me inside of my sense of the body? And you look, and it's a great question to ask, and yeah, you don't have to force an answer on it, but I mean, it's hard to find if it's there at all. And the Buddha would say, actually, keep looking, and maybe there isn't a center to it all. But yeah, the process of the body. I mean, you look at photos of yourself as a baby, and of the people you know as they were young, growing older. The body is definitely a process, and yeah, sometimes it's strange that there's this, the body seems more me sometimes than the mind, even though the body is just constantly changing, all the movement of the body. I mean, one way you can approach it from like a philosophical level or just an intellectual level, just thinking about all the ways that every cell of the body is just constantly changing. Every cell would have replaced itself purportedly in 7 years. So however old we are, divide that by 7, it's a totally different body that many times around. That's humbling, but also just, one exercise we talked about in that retreat was this kind of tying back into this sense of flowing, is that you can feel the blood in the body, feel the coursingness, feel the process of at least one aspect of the body, the blood, the circulatory system. And you can do that by yourself. You're just putting your hand on your wrist to feel the pulse there, or on your carotid artery up here. And there it is. Just lub-dub, lub-dub, lub-dub. I think that's how doctors say, make the heart beating sound, lub-dub. But yeah, it's just right there, and it's also can be good if you're able to do it in a smooth enough way when you're talking with other people, because it's not like we're just thinking that there's a solid me here, but we're imputing a solid you and everybody else over there. So to get out of that reification of self and other, you just talking to somebody and your hands can be behind your back and you're just feeling your pulse, like, oh yeah, just blood, moving all around the body, and probably the same in their body, and it just decenters whatever story we're telling in a way. So being able to find ways to feel into the process of the body. The same is true when you feel the heartbeat, or even sometimes you can hear your heart beating if you kind of close your ear in a certain way. And yeah, that's just one way, but these are so interesting because it's almost an infinite number of ways that we can look at the different processes of each of the organ systems and organs of the body. So you'll have to find your own, and that are the most meaningful and most impactful. So I hope that is something. Yeah, thanks, Judith. Please.
One thing I'm curious about is, like, when I think about not self and the emptiness of the self, like, one of the easiest conceptions for that of me is like the emptiness of gender. And I think so much about like, most people have this obsession with like, am I masculine presenting enough or feminine presenting enough or androgynous enough, based on how they feel. And when I look at monastics, somehow there's like this, and maybe this is just my perception of like disattachment from gender, and a lot of the way of that comes from like not having hair, having the same robes and whatnot. And so I'm really curious if there are any suttas or ways to think about like detaching from that sort of self-consciousness of like, am I performing gender in a certain way, or like what are my expectations of my body and what it looks like and does based on the way other people gender me?
Thank you. Very good point. And whatever kind of foothold we can get into this perception of not self, you point to a really fascinating one of just, where is my sense of gender or sense of masculinity, femininity, anywhere on that spectrum, and it does become a very moving target. There is a sutta where the Buddha is, this Brahmin comes up to him, and the Buddha was said to have he's a really attractive person and have a real sense of regalness to him. And so this Brahmin is really impressed and comes up to him and he says, "What are you? Are you a god?" And the Buddha says, "No, I'm not a god." And the Brahmin says, "Are you a Gandhabba?" Which is like a celestial musician. Kind of cool word, celestial musician. And the Buddha says, "No, I'm not a Gandhabba." "Are you a Naga?" This is like a celestial dragon. And the Buddha says, "Nope, not a dragon." And the questioning keeps going on, and the person says, "Are you man?" And the Buddha says, "No." And then this questioner says, "Are you a woman?" And the Buddha says, "No." And then the person says, "Well, if you're not a god, and you're not a Gandhabba, and you're not a Naga, and you're not a man, and you're not a woman, well, what are you?" And the Buddha just says, "I'm awakened. There is this awakenness. There is just the Buddha, that which is knowing." And that's fascinating, to look at the non-genderedness, the utter non-genderedness of knowing, the utter non-agedness of knowing. There's no race to the knowing. The sense of knowing it's just awareness. And that's, to be able to shift into a type of, a simplicity like that can be really useful in a world which is constantly putting labels on us, and our own habit to constantly put labels on other people. It's unkind and unuseful for ourselves because we become beholden to our own self-perceptions, and it's an unkindness to others. I don't know this person, and I certainly don't know this person deeply, and on some level, it's whatever kind of perception I could have of this other person. This is a great quote from the Buddha: "Whatever way you conceive of it, the truth is ever other than that." So, cognitive humility. So, really useful. Yeah, thank you. Great question.
Hello. Thank you so much. Just a really quick note, also in response to the question that was asked. There are two texts that I highly recommend. One's called Buddhism Beyond Gender by Rita M. Gross. She's a very well-known Buddhist scholar who passed away somewhat recently, and the publication was published posthumously after she died. And she really dove into the topic of gender in Buddhism and how to dismantle that as identity, and how it shows up in Buddhist literature as well. And second to that is the Hidden Lamp series, 20 Centuries of Awakened Buddhism and Awakened Women in Buddhism. And the book, Hidden Lamp, is a compilation of women's teachings and stories, both Buddhist nuns and lay women across the different lineages of Buddhism. So there are Theravada teachings, Mahayana, Zen, Tibetan, and so on. And actually this text is really interesting because it specifically does speak to the issue of gender and illusion of gender. And it is actually one of my favorite Buddhist texts. Anyway.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Hidden Lamp, The Hidden Lamp, and then Rita Gross. I think she's written a lot. Thank you very much. Okay. And you're very right that it is wonderful when you become a monastic and you get to shave your head and just live in brown rectangles. It's just fantastic. Folding day, laundry day, it's awesome. All your laundry is just a beautiful little rectangle folded on top of another rectangle, and no pressure. No pressure to ordain. But it's great. It's great. Well, thanks everybody for exploring embodiment together, and hopefully we can continue that. And just together, let's do the suffusion with the divine abidings chant, which is on page 43. And this is all about the 4 Brahma Viharas, or divine abidings: loving kindness, compassion, gladness, and equanimity. But we can also use the same format to just more inhabit this body. So now let us make the 4 boundless qualities shine forth. I will abide, pervading 1 quarter, with a heart imbued with loving kindness. Likewise the 2nd, likewise the 3rd, likewise the 4th. So above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself, I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a heart imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. I will abide, pervading 1 quarter, with a heart imbued with compassion. Likewise the 2nd, likewise the 3rd, likewise the 4th. So above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself, I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a heart imbued with compassion, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. I will abide, pervading 1 quarter, with a heart imbued with gladness. Likewise the 2nd, likewise the 3rd, likewise the 4th. So above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself, I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a heart imbued with gladness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. I will abide, pervading 1 quarter, with a heart imbued with equanimity. Likewise the 2nd, likewise the 3rd, likewise the 4th. So above and below, around and everywhere, all as to myself, I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a heart imbued with equanimity, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. Okay. So just maintaining that sense of embodiment, we'll read the blessing braid. So this is something which we have on our website, and a way of remembering people who are either not here or friends of friends, people who to share blessings and keep in our hearts. So Milo, please.
For Janaki, just had surgery. Spread metta for quick recovery. Kalyana Mitta Meditation Center and Ajahn Kumaro in Asheville, North Carolina. Asheville was hit very hard by Hurricane Helene. Ajahn Kumaro continuing to offer meditation sittings and teaching the Dhamma to the community. Spread metta for all those affected by the hurricane. For Juanita, health difficulties, please spread metta. For Sunita Dondi, having severe body pains, fever, spread happiness and peace. And for Sachi Gudas, baby age 6 years, bedridden, spread happiness and peace.
Thank you, Milo. And if anyone else has anyone else to bring into the the space, you can raise your hand and bring these other names into the good wishes.
There are some Zoom comments. Aurelian's mother recovering after eye surgery. And Joseph says, blessings for Michael, Rosa, Robert, Julia, Robbie, Destiny, Aunt Helen, Uncle John, CJ, Gloria, and Vandana, my Tai Chi teacher in Nashville, North Carolina.
And Janaki? Thank you. Pragati's grandfather? Myra and Jin. River, who's going through mental health issues. Okay, we just sit with those names for a little bit. Well, we'll wrap up. There is tea and lots of good food. And today, for some reason, there's lots of cookies. There's lots of cookies, enough, I think, for everybody to at least get a half, if not a full cookie. So share your cookies if you'd like. And could we get, maybe, if anyone is here for the first, second, or third time, if you would be so bold as to raise your hand and maybe say your name and how you heard about Clear Mountain, please. Martin, good to meet you. Yeah, please.
Cheryl from Puyallup, and I've seen the brochure at Cloud Mountain many times. I've been going to Cloud Mountain since 2001, so very happy to be here. I've been online before.
Well, good to meet you, Cheryl. Yeah. Welcome, Emily. Michelle, welcome. Please. Oh, Amy, Karen, yeah, welcome. Glad you could come. All right. Well, we do have time here. There's a big celebration that's happening at 1, so I'll probably ring the bell at 11:45, and it won't be like a hard shut off at 11:45, but start cleaning up. But till then, lots of food and lots of really good people. Do encourage you, again, if you're so bold and wanting to stretch yourself, see if you can, the first person you talk to, be someone who you don't know so well. So that's a nice thing. And people on YouTube, Zoom, you can you can continue on. There'll be a Zoom coffee hour afterwards, so everybody can wave goodbye to the Zoom people. All right, and I think that's it. And please have a good time getting to know one another and have some cookies.